Okay, there we go. All right. Whew. I was nervous there for a second. Mic wasn't working, but we're good. Let me double check that things are coming up correctly. There's a little bit of a delay between what I'm doing and what actually happens. So I'm just making sure that everything's coming up correctly, which it looks like it is. So welcome to today's live. I usually do this at my house. I'm doing it in the office today, so this room's a little bit echoey. So I apologize in advance if you're getting that. Tried to set it up to avoid that as much as possible. Okay, good. We're still there. I'm going to throw this up right away first. So leave any comment to be entered into today's giveaway. And today's giveaway is going to be access to our brand new Recall Mastery course. If you already have access to that and I choose you as the winner, then we'll get you something of an equivalent value. But that is the giveaway that we're going to be doing for today. And that giveaway, you just enter by leaving any comment. You can say hello, you can say where you're from, ask a question, leave some feedback about the community, about the Pupford app, whatever you want it to be. Is it really echoey? I'm like kind of going too much in my head right now. I'm going to back that up. Okay. Maybe that worked. All right. We've got Jackie Lynn here. She says, hey, Devin, hello. We've got Christina. Pam Lefkowitz already has a question. I'm going to get to that. That's a good question. I like that question. Okay, yeah, so there it is. Leave any comment to enter today's giveaway. So, if for those of you who don't know me real quick, also today's live will probably be about 40 minutes long today, so a little bit shorter than usual, 45 minutes. So let's get right to it. Let's do it. Okay, so the first question that we have here from Pam Lefkowitz is how and when to phase out treats. So this is a question that comes up a lot, and I think the reason that a lot of people wonder, right, and the reason that we worry about it is we're worried about our dog becoming overly reliant on treats, or thinking, oh, they're only going to listen when I have treats around, or whatever it might be, whatever reason. Those are valid thoughts to have, but it's hard to say an exact time as to when you should phase out treats. But in the first year of training your dog, which is basically, the first year of you having them, hopefully, you should be using treats very frequently, if not every single time. And let me tell you why. So the laws of learning with our dogs, right, is when they do something that we want, we give them a treat to reinforce that. And every single time that you do that, you're increasing the likelihood that that will happen again in the future. That is what the definition of positive reinforcement is, right? You're adding something, you're reinforcing the behavior in the hopes that they're going to do it again in the future, the next time that you ask, or the next time that they are presented with that situation. And so every single time that you give a treat, it makes it even more likely that they're going, it's a stronger reinforcer, right? That's the reason we use treats. Verbal praise is great. Petting your dog is great. Sometimes, playing with your dog is a reinforcer as well. But for so many dogs, the treats is like the ultimate reinforcer. And so that's why I think in the first year, you should be using treats very frequently, if not always. But let me tell you this. So it will depend as well on the behavior. So for example, you can probably, even if your dog is, 3-4 months old, you can probably get your dog into a sit inside the house without actually showing a treat, with just asking them for a sit or showing the hand motion or whatever it might be. Whereas if you're outside and you are working on recall and they're 20 feet away from you, that's something you probably haven't practiced as much, and so it needs to be more heavily reinforced in the beginning. You really need to think of it as like when you're first working on a behavior, you want to just pound the reinforcement as much as possible. And then over time, once they're doing it more consistently, then you can start to phase it out. And even when you phase it out, you want to do what's called, I don't know the exact term, but essentially it's random reinforcement or intermittent reinforcement, where you're going to, only give a treat every second time or maybe every third time, and you keep it random. And so, or maybe one time it's you ask them for a sit, you mark that, but you don't give a treat, and then you ask for a lay down, and then you treat the lay down, or, something like that. So stick with treats for a long time. And even when you quote unquote phase out treats completely, you're still going to use treats when you train, because just like us humans, right? Like, we like to be paid for the things that we do. And if you kept going in and doing your work every day, and then your boss just stopped paying you, you would probably be a little less motivated, right? And sometimes when you start a job, you're like, okay, they give you the cool perks, and they give you the new company hat, and they, take you out to lunch, and there's all those things to kind of reinforce, like, this is a fun place to be. But then over time, it's like, okay, I just need my paycheck. And it's similar like that with our dogs. So, that's a thought on that. Hopefully that helps, Pam. Okay, we have some other questions coming in. I had some questions as well. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Oh, come on. Sorry, folks. Sorry, I knocked my adapter out of my laptop, and there went everything. Just went flying. So stick around. I'm just going to type that in. Tech problems. Stand by. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let me go back to one of the questions that we had in the thread earlier. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Okay, here we go. So this question... Well, here's just something. Let's talk about potty training a little bit. There have been a lot of posts in the community about potty training, and a whole plethora of questions, whether it be, how do I, when do I start using potty bells? Or, they'll go pee in the house, but they'll go pee outside, but then they poop in the house, or all these different questions that go along with potty training. And so I kind of wanted to address, I wanted to address potty training on a little bit more of like holistic and conceptual answer versus like picking one specific one. So here's the thing, and it goes back to what we talked about like how dogs are reinforced and how they learn. So let's think about potty training. What you're looking for are instances where you set up successful potty breaks outside, and you're able to reinforce that with typically treats or sometimes play. And so if you kind of look at it as like a numbers game, which it's not a numbers game. It's not okay, if you have 100 successful outside potty breaks, then you're good. That's not how it works. But what I mean is, the more times that you can have your dog, think of it as like a scale, right? If every single time your dog goes potty outside and you're there and you reinforce it, like that side of the scale starts weighing more. But then every single time that they have an accident inside the house, or they go potty somewhere they're not supposed to, or something like that happens, the other side of the scale goes up. And so really what you're trying to do is just keep the bad side of the scale down, or, light, and keep the good side of the scale heavy. And you do that by creating as many instances as you can. And that's why we focus so heavily in this 30-day Perfect Pup class and in the app. And Zach talks about it all the time. You focus on following a schedule in the beginning. You focus on, okay, every 30 minutes, I'm going to take my puppy outside. They might not pee every 30 minutes, but you're going to take them outside. And when they do pee, you're going to reinforce it. And even when they're inside, you're not going to be giving them free roam, especially in that first, honestly, 2 weeks to a month. Your dog should have almost no freedom. That doesn't mean they're in a crate 24/7, but they should be either on your watch, like you should be physically watching them, and you should be in a puppy-proofed room, i.e. like somewhere with floors that can be peed on. There's nothing that they can chew up. If you're just kind of letting them roam that area, or they should be in the crate or some type of playpen or something like that. So that, I mean, really that's what it should look like. The first like 2, 3, 4 weeks is just so strict of a schedule, so strict of like not giving them any freedom, because every single time, even if it's just an accident, right? Because here's the thing, when accidents happen inside the home, it's not your dog's fault. It's your fault. I know it's a little bit harsh, but that's the truth. Like, it is your fault. It is not the dog's fault. They don't understand yet. If they are 3 months old and you are expecting them to know where to pee, you're going about it wrong. So put it on yourself. Use whatever type of schedule you need to use. There's like, make a spreadsheet, print it out, put it on your fridge. We have the printable schedule that comes with the 30-day Perfect Pup class. Whatever you need to do, stick to that schedule and don't worry about, I need my dog to tell me when they're going to go or any like that. No, it's your job in the beginning to just set them up for success. I wouldn't start worrying about potty bells until you can go like at least a couple weeks without any accident. And some people would disagree with me. Some people would say, oh no, you should introduce potty bells in the beginning. And there's some truth to it. But the reason that I recommend against it is because people get overly reliant on the potty bells. They think, they were successful with the potty bells 5, 6, 7 times, so I'm good to go. They'll tell me when they need to go. It's like, no, you need to continue sticking with the schedule and going along with it. So that's just like I just wanted to kind of have a general conversation about potty training and the importance of just sticking to a schedule and setting your dog up for success. So hopefully that is helpful. Sierra Muniz said, just got a puppy. That is so exciting. Your life is about to change in so many ways. So Christina Bennett said, my 1.5-year-old golden doodle still doesn't really communicate when he needs to potty. We just have a schedule for the most part. We praise like crazy. Yeah, and that's good. And if you are at that age, if the dog is at that age, 1.5 years, and you're still like having like consistent problems, you may want to consider getting a positive reinforcement trainer in your home just to kind of diagnose some of that potentially. But once your dog is older and you really feel like, okay, they've gone a few weeks without having an accident, using potty bells is great. And you can go look up on YouTube like how to introduce potty bells. I won't cover that on this live. This is a good question. Okay, so Daniel Huerta said, greetings, how do I prepare my puppy for his first grooming? That's a really good question. So the way you prepare your puppy for their first grooming is you start well in advance. And sometimes that means days or potentially weeks in advance of when they're going to have their first grooming. What you want to do, and Zach has a really good video on this that he did with Inertia, with getting her used to the bath, is you want to just introduce it to your dog very, very slowly and have it be a positive experience. And what I mean by that is you're going to have, for example, Daniel, the concept is you want to get your dog used to being like touched and being moved and then picking up their paw and all those things. So start simple. Start by just, sitting down next to your dog and, putting your hand like on their back, give them a couple pets, and then like mark it either with a clicker or a yes or whatever word you use. Give them a couple of treats, make it a good experience, and then do the same thing and start just kind of like petting down their back towards their legs, getting them, into a little bit more of a foreign spot. And when they're being good, you mark it and you reward it. And then you start grabbing, slowly. You can maybe start petting their paw and then maybe just like kind of putting your hands on it, not even grabbing it, and you mark and you reward that. And then once they're comfortable and you've done that a few times, then you actually grab their paw, and you can, kind of move it around in your hand. And when they're being calm, you mark and you reward. So it's all about taking it slowly, and just making it as positive of an experience as possible. So that's just a general, idea with on how to like get your dog used to different things. Take it very slowly, make it a positive experience. I would go watch Zach's video. If you go to YouTube and you search Zach George bath, I think it's the first one that shows up. It's him teaching Inertia how to have a bath. Okay, this is a good question from Jessica Hannum. She said, when do you recommend going to behaviorist vet as opposed to just training. If I understand your question correctly, you're saying like, when would you get a behaviorist involved? So really, you're going to get a lot of varying opinions depending on who you ask, because there are some people, most of them are trainers, I'll be upfront with that, or behaviorists, who would say you should have a meeting, you should have an in-person trainer or a behaviorist in your home at some point, no matter what. And I don't necessarily fall under that line of thought, but there's always advantages. Where I would say you should definitely get a behaviorist involved is if there is a specific problem that you believe you know the root of the problem, the root cause. If you're able to decipher that on your own, whether it's through your own research or asking around or using the internet, and you don't feel like you are adequately able to work through that behavior. And I know that's kind of a vague answer, because there is no one specific answer, because it's that's kind of like saying, like, I don't know, like, it's kind of like you go to the dentist when you have a problem. Like, yeah, you have general cleanings. You're supposed to do that, every year. Not everyone does that, but typically you go to the dentist when you have a specific problem, and it's very similar with behaviorists or trainers. You want to get them in your house if you feel like you actually need them. But for a lot of people, again, a lot of it's financial for some people, or just time constraints. But some people, they like having a trainer come in, once every couple of weeks, just to like check up and see how things are going and give them some tips and some feedback, because that's really one of the powerful parts of having an in-person trainer or a behaviorist is they're going to be able to watch how you're training, and they're going to be able to help you, because in most cases, that's really what a trainer is helping you do, is they are helping you learn how to train your dog, and they're critiquing and coaching how you're training your dog. So sorry, that was kind of a long-winded answer, but hopefully that gives you a good thought on that. Okay, one of the other questions we had come in here from the community, this was a good one. So this would be actually an instance where you might want a behavior. So Kareem El Shafai said, how to teach a 3-month-old puppy to stay home alone calmly. Our pup goes crazy the minute we leave the house, banging on the door, barking, crying, and chewing stuff like no tomorrow. So that's an instance where, sorry, I'm like kind of overcoming a congestion cough thing. So Kareem's situation here would be one where I would potentially recommend getting a behaviorist involved, because this could be the early signs of separation anxiety. So, and to this question as well for Kareem, we actually have a course that we partnered with Julie Naismith, who's one of the leaders in separation anxiety training, and we built a course with her. It's called Happily Home Alone Pup, and it walks you through how to diagnose if it's actually separation anxiety, how to watch and figure out what your dog is doing, and then how to train to overcome that. You can check that out on the Pupford website, because I'll just be frank, I'm not a separation anxiety expert. I wouldn't even try to dive into that, but I wanted to just bring that to people's attention. Okay, we got some good questions coming in. I'll just throw this up here again. We are doing a giveaway. Winner is going to get access to the Recall Mastery course. Okay. Christina Nay, is that how you say that? Nay, probably said it wrong. Said, what is the best way to lower the dog smell and dog breath? Yeah, those are good questions. I think one of the easiest ways to lower the dog smell, there's a couple things. Number one would be giving baths, right, frequently enough, and that'll depend on your dog. Most people say don't give a bath more than like once a week or so, but at a minimum, you should probably give a bath at least like every 3 to 4 weeks, and that's going to help. And there's different like shampoos for dogs that'll help with the smells. Another thing would be making sure that you are brushing frequently, because what that can do, it can get out some of that like older deadish hair and some of the smells there. So brushing your dog is going to help. And then in regards to the puppy breath or the dog breath, really there's a lot of options out there, many of which I've tried, some of which work. There is a lot of truth to, having your dog chew on like, different types of chews like bones or like Himalayan chews or antlers or tendons or something like that, because it helps scrape off the plaque and the tartar. That motion of them chewing on it is going to help clean their teeth naturally. But above that, like you should be brushing your dog's teeth. I know a lot of people find that crazy to hear, like, because me growing up, anytime I was around dogs, like, no, I didn't know anybody who brushed their dog's teeth. I feel like that's kind of becoming more popular in the past recent years, and but it's important, and it'll help you clean, just clean their mouths generally and help with the breath. There's also like additives that you can put in their water. There's dental cleaning wipes. The list goes on of ways that we actually have an article on the Pupford website with I think 11 ways how to clean your dog's teeth without brushing them. Above all, you should be brushing their teeth, but there are many ways that you can, you can do that without brushing their teeth. Okay, we had some other things. So Jackie Lynn Green said, is there anything wrong in restarting the program? We went through it once, but it seems like Flash is regressing. He is 6 months old today. Is it common / normal for regression? Yeah, 100%. I would highly recommend you go through the program multiple times. Let me say it this way. So when I was raising my puppies, when they were just little pups, we didn't have 30-Day Perfect Pup. We didn't have the Pupford app. I wish that we would have, because I would have been living and breathing all the information in there. We recommend you do the course multiple times. 30 days is just the baseline. It's just kind of to get you familiar with the basics and help you on the right track. But you could repeat a lot of those things, and you could, just pick and choose the things that you're having the most problems with and continue on with those. So yeah, there's no harm at all in restarting the program. In regards to is regression normal? Yes, it is. And here's often why it happens and how you can fix it. So from my observations, regression occurs most typically around, people call it the teenage phase, 6 to 9 months old. And I think a lot of people want to peg it on, my dog's just being rebellious, or they hit the teenage phase and this is just how it happens. There's nothing that can be done. But I would argue, and a lot of this is speaking from my own experience of how when I was raising my puppies and they were about 6 months old, we get into this. So typically at about 6 months, that means you've had your dog for about 3, maybe 4 months, depending, right? And you're in this mindset of you've been training every day. You've been going so hard at it. You've been consistent. You're putting in the time. You're putting in the effort. You're seeing the improvements, and you're like, wow, this is going great. And you stay really, really, really focused on it for those first, 3, 4, 5 months. And then you start to get a little bit lax because they're not biting your hand every day, or they're not going pee on the carpet every 2 hours, or they're getting a little bit better with leash walking, or they're starting to come when you call their name, right? Like you see these improvements. And so naturally we as humans, we start to get more relaxed in how we approach them. And often that means we start training less and we start giving more freedom. Honestly, those are often the two biggest culprits to like the quote unquote teenage phase. Yeah, I'm sure there's some part that goes into it with like them growing and maturing and those types of things. But generally it comes down to we give too much freedom and we stop training as much. And so that's where it's important to, in those situations where you're like, oh man, I know my dog, I think that they know this. Why are they regressing? That's when you need to just take a step back and say, okay, am I actually training enough? Number one. And then number two, am I giving too much freedom? The biggest thing that I see with the regression is often with chewing, right? You think your dog is like done chewing on shoes or things that are left on the ground. And so you're like, oh, they've got it. They're doing really well with this. And so you start giving them more freedom in the home and letting them be on their own a little bit more. And that's when they get into things that they're not supposed to, because the behavior is just not there yet. Because here's the thing is most behaviors really are going to take, at least 6 to 12 months to like really, really ingrain and really have your dog understand them completely and fully in a variety of environments, situations, moods that they're in, all that good stuff. So, when you have regression, take a step back. Take a step back and do a little bit more training and, do a little bit more training and control the environment a little bit more fully. Okay. Here's another good question from Jackie Lynn on a similar vein. She has 2 dogs, and she said she's basically asking, like, can we put a 9-year-old dog through the 30-day training? Should we do them separate, or can I train them together? So really, the principles in 30-Day Perfect Pup are for dogs of any age. Of course, it's easiest to teach puppies than it is older dogs. It's an easier option, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. Sometimes it just takes a little bit more work, a little bit more patience, a little bit more consistency, to work through it. So for sure, you can do it with a dog that's 9 years old. And then in regards to training them separate, that's what is recommended, at least in the beginning. Just because if you train them together, you deal with them distracting each other, one of them getting distracted by someone else or something else, and then the other dog realizing it and going after it. So typically best case scenario is to train separate until you can get to the point where you get one to do a down stay or a sit stay, and then you do training for like a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes with the other dog. And then you come back and reward the one doing the downstay or the sit stay, and then you switch places. So hopefully that helps. Okay, Sarah White asked, and if you're watching in the community or you're watching on Facebook, this is being streamed on both the Pupford Facebook page as well as in the private community and on YouTube. So there's questions coming from all over. So Sarah White said, my dog scratches and licks herself all the time, mostly environmental or food related, but how can I subside these actions temporarily until I'm able to get to a vet for some checkups? Yeah, so you kind of already answered it in your thing. Number one, right, would be going to a vet and ruling out any major issue, because the scratching and the persistent licking, like that can be a sign of much bigger problems. What you can try and do when it does start to happen is you can redirect it, treat it just like you would any other kind of problem behavior, like biting or chewing or humping or something like that. Like just redirect it. Like when did you say she? You didn't say he or she. But until, once he starts doing that, you can redirect to a game of play or to giving some treats or to, sorry, I'm really not tired. It's just like that time of the day, and it just got dark outside, and I'm like, whew. Sometimes when you sit here and talk for a while, it kind of makes you tired. But yeah, I would just, go with basic redirection. You can also try maybe using like just a shampoo, like an anti-itch shampoo. I know that they sell those. Brushing their hair more frequently can help with some of that itchiness. But above all, I would go talk to your vet. Okay, so we had another one come in here. This was from the post earlier. So this is from Anna. She said, help need suggestions. Riley Kate is doing well with training, but will not come when called when outside. How do I get her to listen and obey when calling her to come? She ignores us as she loves the outdoors, and it's frustrating. Thanks for any tips. So again, this is extremely common, right? The challenge of recall. It's probably one of the more difficult behaviors to teach. but here, I'll give you like kind of a basic rundown on where we make mistakes training recall and how we can overcome those, and then a couple other resources. So number one, often, again, like I talked about already multiple times, and Zach talks about a ton, and any trainer will tell you that oftentimes we give too much freedom too early. And the same goes with recall. If you go back to my example of like, whoops, sorry, that was kind of probably loud. If you go back to the example of like the scale, right? You have every time like something good, every time you call your dog and they come back to you and you're able to reward them, like the good side gains more weight. But every time that you call them and they don't come back to you, you have to remember that that's being reinforced. That them, they're being reinforced by the reinforcer is, nothing happens, right? Like if you call their name and they don't come back and they run away from you to go chase after something, they're being reinforced by the chase. That's oftentimes something that we forget with, especially with recall, is reinforcers aren't just treats. They're not just play. They're oftentimes things that we don't want them to be, but they are. Like the act of chasing is a reinforcer. The act of going after something and having that kind of like adrenaline and thrill of like the prey drive is what it's called, right? Like that in itself is a reinforcement. It's like something that's positive and a good experience for your dog. So, and then same goes for like just going off and running off and playing with another dog, whatever it might be. And so every time that you do call your dog and they don't come back to you, you're adding weight to that bad side, the them not listening side. And so one of the really important things is to control the environment with recall. So when you're outside, this is why Zach and us and the course recommend so highly to use a 30-foot long lead, because if you're just allowing, if you have this 4 or 5 month old puppy, whatever it is, and you're like, okay, I've been working on recall inside the house. They're doing pretty good. Like, let's go out to a park. They can go off leash. It's fine. It's allowed at this park. I'm not talking about a dog park. I'm just talking about a general park. Like maybe it's fine at this park that you're at. And you think, they usually come back when I call their name. I'll just let them go run. And you see them take off and you call their name and they don't come back to you. And you call again and they don't come back. And you call again and they don't come back. And so you can avoid those situations and again, help set your dog up for success by using a 30-foot long lead. Because then they still have the freedom to go run around. They have the freedom to explore. They don't feel like they're, on a leash tied down to you, but yet you're still controlling the environment. Because at the end of the day, if they're like on a harness and the 30-foot long lead's clipped on and you have the other end in your hand, they can only go 30 feet away from you. And so you're able to control what's going to happen. And then what happens as well is it kind of gives you the ability to, again, just set them up for more success with that recall. Because when you call them, if they don't come right away, you can do other things like make noises or pat the ground. And if they're still not really coming to you, you can use that lead to kind of just give them a little guidance back towards you. I'm not even going to say a nudge or a tug or anything, because you really don't even need that. Sometimes you just need that little bit of guidance for them to kind of snap back and say, oh, I need to listen to my pup parent. What are they asking me? You get their focus again. You call them back to, that type of thing. So that's where the long lead's so important for teaching that recall. And again, just another general thought on that recall, just like with any other behavior, you need to crawl before you can walk, before you can run, before you can ride a unicycle, right? Like, and it's just like that with recall. It really is like step by step by step. And that's how we have broken down. I know this is, I'm going to do a little bit of a shameless plug here for the Recall Mastery course, because let me just show you one of the examples from Recall Mastery. Oh, sorry. Let me turn this off. So this is me teaching Sunny, we're just about 2 or 3 feet away inside the house, and there's a distraction. It's my other dog, Scout, running by to go chase a toy. She sees it. I'm able to call her. She comes to me, right? So I believe that's level 3 or 4 in the Recall Mastery course, meaning that there's like 2 full levels before that I'm having you practice. And then even later on, like this is level 11. We're outside, off leash, 8 feet away, doing the recall, right? Like you have to break it down into steps and into levels and into, chunks of this is how I'm going to teach my dog this behavior. And 30 Day Perfect Pup is a great, fantastic beginning point. Honestly, for most people, for a lot of people, like, it's enough. That free resources is enough for them to be able to accomplish what they need to. But we recognize here at Pupford that, sometimes people need a little bit more. Sometimes they want like a more concise breakdown. Sometimes they want, they have specific behaviors that they're struggling with. And we found that recall is one of the more difficult ones. And that's why we just launched this recall mastery course about 2 weeks ago or so. And that's actually part of the giveaway today, is the winner is going to get access to that recall mastery course. So what we did with this recall mastery course is, like I was kind of explaining, there's kind of two parts to recall mastery course. There is the levels to mastery, and then there's the recall games. So the levels to mastery is like levels 1 through 10 with a bonus level 11 of, like, level 1 is inside the house, on a leash, no distractions, working up through there. And each level has like between 3 and 5 sub levels. So you've got level 1.1, which is literally take one step away from your dog, call them towards you. This is inside a house, on a leash, no distractions. Take one step away from your dog, call them to you. When they come, mark and reward. You do that 25 times. And then level 1.2, once you've done that successfully, is take 2 to 3 steps away from your dog and do the same thing. So it is very repetitious. I'm going to tell you that. Like, I'll be upfront that if you get access to this Recall Mastery course, if you want to purchase access to it, parts of it will feel a little bit maybe boring and like rudimentary and like, oh, we're doing this same thing. Like, but that's how it works when you're teaching recall. It's how it works with so many behaviors, but especially recall. And then I help you progress up through the difficulty. So you start in the house with no distractions, and then you do in the house with distractions, and then you do in the house, with even more distractions, and then you do that off leash in the house, and then you go into a familiar environment like your backyard or a front yard or a driveway or, the place where they usually go potty, and you do that same thing basically where you're on a leash, and then you add distractions, and then you go 20 feet away on a long lead, and then you work your way up to like a place they're not familiar with. Like, it's all about breaking it down into levels, because what happens so often, we're all so guilty of this, is we try and move too quickly with our dog, and we kind of give them too much credit. We think they're doing okay inside the house, they're ready to go out to a crazy park with a bunch of distractions, and they'll come back to me because they do it in the house. That means they can do it anywhere, and that's just not how it works. So I cannot recommend the Recall Mastery course enough. I know it's a shameless plug. I'm the one who did like a lot of the creation behind it, and like created the levels and did a lot of the filming and the GIFs that go along with it, but I can't recommend it enough. And then the second part of the Recall Mastery course are recall games. There's 5, and they're simple games. Each video is only like 30 seconds to a minute long to give you an overview of how to play the game, but they're just kind of fun games that you can play. Some of them just include you and your dog. A few of them you need another person, or even like 3 other people, 2-3 other people. But these games are just they're powerful ways to like re-energize your dog's desire to, like, they won't even know that they're in a training session, basically, right? Like, because I think sometimes us as pup parents, we get into this mood where we're frustrated, like, because sometimes raising a puppy is hard. It's frustrating. There's things that like we seem like we're just banging our head against the wall and nothing is improving. And so sometimes we just need to kind of take a step out of that mindset and just say, all right, let's just play some fun games. Let's do some things that are going to be fun for you, fun for the dog, but they're also going to be a learning experience, and it's going to improve specific behaviors. And that's where, like, I really like the recall game section of the Recall Mastery course. So, yes, I unfortunately don't have a ton more time for questions. I have to cut this live a little bit short. I apologize in advance. But give me just 1 second here. Carrie Kamara had a good question, said, will there be a replay of this Q&A? Sorry, I missed the beginning. Yeah, it should post in the community. So you can go back and watch the entire thing if you would like, or skip around to whatever, whatever you want to watch. So give me just a second here. I'm picking a random giveaway winner. All right, so for today's winner who gets access to the Recall Mastery course, that winner is... Sorry, I really wasn't trying to create anticipation. I was just checking something. So the giveaway winner is Shannon Weeks. So congrats, Shannon. I'm going to write that in here. I hope I don't disconnect my computer. So if your name is not Shannon, which is probably a lot of you, and you are still interested in checking out the Recall Mastery course, I just dropped a link there. You can go check it out. It is still part of the launch deal right now, so it is only $9.99, and that gives you lifetime access. You get all those levels that I was explaining. You get all the games, and that access is not going to go away. Right now, that access is within the Pupford website. We are working very hard to make all of our digital courses, so the 21 Impulse Control games, Happily Home Alone Pup, Recall Mastery, we're working very hard to make those available within the Pupford app. It just takes a little bit of time. Technology, sometimes it's way more difficult than you want it to be, and that's kind of just how it goes, right? So if you want to check those out, please go follow that link. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. I'm probably going to be doing another one of these on Sunday evening, and there's going to be an awesome announcement that goes along with it. I won't tell you too much now, but it's going to be a very fun and exciting way for you to get some rewards, to get some perks. I'll just leave it at that. It's a fun little program that we're going to be launching here this weekend, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Again, if I didn't get to your question, I apologize. Continue to use the app. Continue to use the 30 Day Perfect Pup. It's an amazing resource. And above all, just keep working through these problem behaviors. Don't give up. Stay patient with your dogs, and it will all be worth it. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for supporting Pupford. Thank you for supporting this community. Thank you for being a part of it. And again, I say this a lot in the community. Let's be positive with each other. Let's help each other out. Let's make it a safe place. Let's not argue or fight or have issues. No one wants that. We don't have time for that. We're all struggling. We're in it up to our ears with our dogs, most of us, right? We don't need negativity and arguing and fighting in this community. So keep it positive, keep it happy, and again, keep using the resources that we have. Hopefully I'll see you Sunday night for another one of these lives. But again, thank you so much for coming on, and